Okay, don't ask me how many shots it took to split that card. And I'm not trying to be 22 Plinkster anyway. But Annie Oakley made that trick shot countless times while she was traveling with Buffalo Bill's Wild West show almost 140 years ago. What's the connection? Stick with me and I'll explain. The connection to Annie Oakley is that she used the original version of my Marlin Model 39A, and it was her work in part with that rifle, then called the Marlin Model 1891, that made her famous. Marlin still manufactures this rifle, and that makes it the longest production run of any shoulder-fired firearm on the planet. And today, we're going to put new eyes on this old friend. Hi, George here with Tales from Target Suite, where I'll share my perspective on guns and shooting, and we'll spend some time at the range. But every now and then we'll reconvene here in my shop or at the farm in Louisiana, where I'll build some fun projects and share an adventure or two that'll make even a grown man smile. But if you enjoy this video, please hit subscribe and give me a like. And if you click on that little bell, it'll give you a notification every time I upload a new video. Usually on Tuesday. A man's got to know his limitations. You may remember those famous words uttered posthumously by Inspector Harry Callahan over the remains of Lieutenant Briggs. And you ask yourself, what has that got to do with this video? Well, I'll tell you. On trips to the farm as a kid, I got to see my cousin BT shoot time and again. BT usually had a modest rifle, and one in particular I remember had no sights at all. But BT's ability to hit what he aimed at was nothing short of remarkable. That boy had a gift. And it became clear over the years that I didn't. I was never able to make this open-sighted Marlin I got for Christmas in 1963 shoot up to its potential. So I did what seemed best at the time. I put a cheap scope on it. Now that cheap scope did nothing for the good looks of this classic lever action rifle, but at least I could shoot it. As good as BT? No, but I could shoot. Well, that brings us to today. You know, that original rear sight on my Marlin, it's been unaccounted for. And I finally did what I should have done a long time ago. I took that cheap scope off of this classic lever action rifle, and I started searching for a replacement. Not a replacement of the original factory sight, because I know my limitations. No, after scouring the internet and watching some YouTube videos, I settled on the Skinner sight. The Skinner sight showed up in the mail a couple of days ago, so let's get started and get that sight installed. Well, there it is. Elegant little thing, isn't it? You know, the aperture here is looking at it from the front side, and that's looking at it from the back side. The aperture here is mounted to a threaded post that screws into the, I'm going to call this the adjustment block. And the adjustment block is dovetailed into the side of the base. With each rotation of the aperture, the height of the aperture changes by 25 thousandths of an inch. And that's because the thread pitch is 40. So 40 turns per inch equals 25 thousandths of an inch. To adjust for windage, we loosen this screw and we just slide the entire block left or right to adjust for windage, and then we'll lock it back down. These two screws require a 1/16 inch Allen key, and the two mounting screws, front and rear, require a 3/32 mounting screw. The only thing that you need to remember if you get your screws mixed up is the front screw is much shorter than the rear screw, so you'll need to make sure you keep those straight. It's not going to go in anyway if you try to put them in backwards. But there it is, and that is one fine looking rear sight, and so let's get this thing installed. Well, my Marlin Model 39 came from the factory, drilled and tapped for a scope base, and the Skinner sight is designed to line up perfectly with those holes. So let's get this thing installed. I didn't use any thread locker on these screws, but I did degrease both the threaded hole and also the screws. So let me know in the comments below if you think I should have used thread locker on a 22 rimfire. And one thing I didn't say when I was showing the Skinner sight earlier is the aperture does come out. and there are 4 options. Actually, there are 5 options. There are 4 options for an aperture size, and they're easy to replace, as you can see. And you can also use the ghost ring without an aperture in it for if you wanted a really large aperture. So you have lots of options there. The one I have here is 96 thousandths of an inch, and I think that's going to work for me, but we'll test it out, and if I need to change it, we'll do that. Now, through the power of editing, I'll see you in Ward 5, Natchitoches Parish, and all it's going to take is the click of a mouse. I'll see you there. See, just like that. Now, before I get hammered in the comments, let me just say that Natchitoches Parish has modernized in the recent years and no longer uses the police jury system with its wards. But for most of my life, that's how you describe this part of the country. Ward 5, Natchitoches Parish. What we call the farm today was part of a land grant that was issued to my great-great-great-grandfather in 1870. Now, we don't farm it today in the pure sense, but we do grow some big bass down at the pond, and I've got several beehives. In fact, here's a swarm that moved into one of my boxes last year. And if the summer mowing schedule is any indication, we grow a profound amount of grass and weeds. Okay, enough family history. Let's talk about this rifle. You know, the Skinner website says that there are just too many variations of the Marlin Model 39A to know whether or not the front sight is going to work with the new rear sight, or, as is often the case, is it going to be too short? So I'm going to shoot a group and we'll see where it lands. Then I'll use the calculation from the Skinner website to see if there's enough adjustment in the post to bring the group to where it needs to be. If there is, we'll celebrate together. And if there's not, then I'm going to have to order a taller front sight, and then we'll do this whole thing all over again in a couple of weeks. But we're not going to know until we shoot that group, so let's get started. Okay, I think that's a group I can use, but I'll go down and take some measurements and see what we've got. Okay, so that group measured about 1.2 inches high and just under a ½ inch to the right. So I lowered the post by 1 revolution, that lowers it by 25 thousandths, and I moved the base, the sight base, by 11 thousandths to the left. And so that should get us about where we want to be. Now I'm going to shoot another group and let's see where that lands. Wow, it's not often that things work out quite this well. You know, I started out needing to move my group about 1.2 inches and a little bit to the left. And this group is just about where I'd like it to be, maybe a little bit lower, but I'm pretty satisfied. And so, you know what? It's been a long day, and I think the only thing to do now is to go shoot some steel. You know, before Austin and I get started flipping the paddles on that dueling tree right over there, I just wanted to say that yesterday after the cameras were turned off, I decided to verify the sight setting on that Marlin 39A, and so I shot a group at 50 yards. And I was really surprised. But there's my group at 50 yards. It's about 1 inch, and it's not too far from center of mass. As my note says, I'm really happy with the Skinner sight. You know, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. And if you click on that little bell after you subscribe, it'll give you a notification every time I upload a new video. Like our next video, which is going to be about bowling. Bowling? Yes, but we're not going to use a 16-pound ball. We're going to use this. And we're going to have a unique delivery device. It's going to be my Civil War dictator mortar. And we're going to see if we can bowl a strike. There'll be no spares in this video, so stay tuned, and we'll see you there. Ready? Go.